Hello, hello. Now, while I'm certainly quick to call out Wargaming on their mistakes and I'm things I disagree with, there are the rare times where I actually get to compliment them, and this is certainly one of them. The upcoming Halloween event is absolutely shaping up to be amazing. Well, first of all, let's start off by the ships that you will be playing in this event. First of all, we have a modified Kagero, and well, just looking at the sheer amount of detail and animation that has obviously gone into creating it, you can tell that they have put a lot of effort into this event. I mean, you can see the wings flapping, you can see the pumps going up and down. In fact, this billows out this red smoke that kind of fits with the theme overall. And if we look at the cruiser, which is a modified Chapayev, once again, the attention to detail is obvious. In fact, those wheels, they actually turn like a water wheel. They turn in the water. The faster you go, the faster they turn. And the sheer amount of detail everywhere is once again obvious. In fact, the bigger the ships become, the more amazing the attention to detail comes. In fact, here we have the battleship, the Magnus, which is a modified Tirpitz, and it looks even more impressive in game because there's like lightning coursing between the Tesla coils. Every time the secondary is fired, there's these flashes of lightning going out, and just the overall attention to detail that they have put into this is quite impressive. In fact, the carrier might be my favorite looking ship, because just look at this thing. My god, it has got to be one of the most badass looking carriers I have ever seen. Once again, the same wheel moving, you can see of course the clocks moving, and even the planes are individually modeled. They have these wing-like wings basically, but it looks like angel wings. And the overall attention to detail that has gone into this is very impressive, and it just looks amazing. All the ships look amazing. But that's enough praise on how the visuals look. How does it actually play? Well, we have to actually start with the carrier. First of all ships get specific abilities, and the carrier gets the strongest abilities when it comes to helping out the team. The abilities of the carrier actually don't really help itself much at all, but well, with the Eclipse can kind of help itself. Let's explain Eclipse. This is an AoE disable. It breaks all enemy ship engines and all enemy ship armament. This is of course amazing when it comes to helping out your teammates. A DD gets ambushed or is starting to go low. A cruiser gets surprisingly citadeled and is about to go down. Your battleship is lining up a ram on someone. You hit Eclipse, you break the engines on everyone, you break their guns, and they're sitting ducks for 15 seconds. And of course, with the 7 charges, this is with Superintendent and so forth, you can just absolutely shred them. So this is an amazing ability. Second, we have Shining. Now, this heals all allied ships, but it only heals for 250 HP per second, and it only lasts 5 seconds. But it scales depending on how much damage you deal. So at the start of the game, this heal is pretty damn weak. But later on, when you have doubled it multiple times, oh my, you can heal up cruisers and DDs from 1% health to full health instantly. You can save your battleship's bacon. This thing is amazing, and of course it relies on dealing damage. And that's not actually where it ends entirely for the carrier. It does have some special things going for it. Namely, the speed of the torpedoes. You can get, if you slot torpedo acceleration on your captain, you get 58 knot speed on your torpedoes. And this, of course, combined with torps that hit for 10k each, means that, well, you can see just how insanely fast and how insanely deadly these torpedoes are. So racking up those heavy numbers is actually pretty damn fun and pretty damn fast as well. So they clearly gave it some additional boosts to make it even more fun to play. Next we have, of course, the Magnus, the modified Tirpitz. Now, the ship's names aren't actually like Chapayev and Tirpitz and so forth. It's just because I'm showing a replay. That's where you can see what ships they base the design on, but they have, of course, heavily modified all of these ships. Now, the campaign or the event continues from where the last event ended, where you had to escort the Transylvania all the way to the gate. And as you can see, the Transylvania is now coming through the gate to us, to our welcoming escort. However, much to everyone's lack of surprise, the enemy is actually chasing them. And you have to close this gate. Well, you have to defend 3 towers, that is, kill hordes and hordes of enemies, and defend the towers while the towers attempt to close the gate behind them. And this event is actually a ton of fun. There's no boring escorting, there's no sail here, kill this, sail here, kill that. It's pretty much a non-stop slaughter of enemies. By the way, those visuals I spoke of, you can see when the secondaries are firing, you can see the lightning flashes that pop up around this modified Tirpitz, this Magnus, and of course you can see the lightning coursing all over it. So the attention to detail has been amazing. Also you can see this filth that is spreading from this portal. It actually keeps spreading faster and faster, becoming wider and wider, and it deals damage to every ship caught within it. And it also reduces your concealment, but you have abilities that work around the filth and makes this mission quite a lot more interesting. Just like the carrier, the Magnus, aka the modified Tirpitz, has very unique abilities as well. Well, the usual secondaries plus torps plus main guns kind of brawling stuff makes it of course especially good. You see that eclipse mark by the way next to those ships? That means our carrier just used the ability that stopped them dead in their tracks. You see they're not shooting, they're not moving? That's carrier using that super strong ability. That's why I featured the carrier first, so you can see when it's being used to help the rest of the team. Now, the Tirpitz, or the Magnus, has a heal as well. But the difference in this heal is that it's massive AoE. You see this ring around me? Usually this heal is actually very small. It only has a 750 meter range. But every time you pass these certain damage thresholds, it multiplies in range. So it goes from the very small useless heal to when you deal a ton of damage, it becomes absolutely massive. And the more people are in it, the faster it heals. So the battleship becomes like this vital part of the team. Another ability that it has is the bubble, the F ability. It renders the ship invulnerable for 10 seconds. And it has 8-second cooldown in between. You have plenty of charges as well. And what you can do is combine, you see once again, carrier broke the engine on this guy, so I can close the distance with him. And now that the engine is broken, I'm going to be able to ram him. And just before, look at the F cooldown, just before I get close to this Rasputin, which is a 200k health, massive boss type of mob, I pop my invulnerability and I ram into him, and that was an instant 130k damage, and as I keep ramming into him, the damage just keeps increasing and increasing and increasing, and I will eventually kill him. Invulnerability runs out, my health is rapidly dropping, but I'm not too worried, and I pop my invulnerability again, and I finish the Nikolai off with a ram. That was 200k worth of damage. So you can literally take out these vital key bosses with this battleship by combining this invulnerability and your ramming. And of course, your carrier can make life a lot easier for you by breaking their engines to make it even easier for you to ram. So there's a lot of team play, but there's also just a lot of fun going on. Once again, I pop my heal. You can see how massive the radius is on it. That's because I've done like 580k worth of damage here. And once again, I'm gonna torp these, and once we get to show off the invulnerability some more here, because I think this DD here is about to rush us and try to torp us, but because of the combination of this AoE heal and your invulnerability and secondaries and everything, well, you don't really fear torpedoes or rushing DDs too much, because just before he lands, we can once again pop our invulnerability, and even though the damage numbers show up, we're actually taking 0 damage. So this is hilariously fun. This is so much fun. And it's not just limited to the battleship, because all the classes are actually very, very enjoyable, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy this event. In fact, let's move on to the cruiser next. Next up, we have the cruiser, the modified Chapayev. And now this one is also, surprisingly, or not surprisingly, a lot of fun to play. It actually has an absolutely absurd 48% fire chance on its shells, which means that you pretty much start fires on every volley. And this boss, the Great Gorgon, which has 250k health and heals while in this filth that spews out from the portal, is usually quite a hard boss to kill, but in this modified Chapayev you can kill him alone. And here you see me using the T ability. And what's special about this T ability is that it lowers your reload immensely. You see that DPM? Absolutely absurd. And you can just non-stop fire. And of course, combined with the fire chance, you can easily target each part of the ship, set a fire on every single part of it, and combined with torps, you can set a flooding and 4 fires. And of course, even the Gorgon, which is incredibly tanky and heals in here, cannot withstand quadruple fires plus flooding and simply melts. The other ability that the ship has is the radar. A 15 km radar, extremely useful not just for yourself but for your entire team. Gives you so much information because the filth lowers your vision by half and your concealment as well. So you're actually quite stealthy if you're in the filth, but unfortunately so are the enemy ships and you can quite easily get surprised. And as you can see, this Gorgon melts quite easily even though he's so incredibly tanky, but the amount of DPM coming out is just too much for him to deal. Another thing worth noting is on this T ability that greatly enhances your reload is that the more damage you deal, the more it heals you. So while just using it is absolutely hilarious, as you can see here, this is of course the T ability that lowers the reload. The amount of DPM you can pump out in this thing is absolutely ridiculous, and it's so hilariously fun to use it on pretty much everything and just watch them melt. But the survivability aspect that it gives you is significantly more impressive. Even if you hit torps or multiple citadels, as long as you have the T ability up, well, look at my health bar, bottom left, look at my health bar for every volley, every hit I get on this guy. And you can see just how incredibly much you can heal. At base it heals 25% of your damage, dealt it heals you, but the more damage you deal, the more it multiplies. And you can watch me just sail right into these torps, I don't care, I went down to 3k health or something like that, but with the T ability I'm constantly full HP, and you literally become this unkillable juggernaut as long as it's open. You can literally sail right into torps. If the torps don't instantly one-shot you, then you instantly heal all of that health back, and it makes it so much fun. Last but not least, we have the Urashima, which is the modified destroyer. Now, the torpedo reload consumable is probably quite obvious to everyone, but it's the other two consumables that are quite interesting. First of all, the Kagero, or this Urashima destroyer, obviously loves sailing around in this filth. It can already reach a ridiculous concealment of 4 km, but with the filth cutting the concealment in half, it can actually reach a concealment of 2 kilometers. So it loves sailing around in the filth and just nuking all these high priority heavy health targets. Now, what's interesting here is that the speed boost that you have actually heals you, but just like many of the other abilities in this mode, it scales based on damage dealt. You can see I'm actually healing quite rapidly now, and that's because I've dealt so much damage. And here we see a pretty nice combination of the carrier using the Eclipse ability to break the engine on this Gorgon, just as my torpedoes come up, so I'm able to launch torpedoes at pretty much a stationary Gorgon who's just now accelerating, and I have no issues landing all my torps on him. So, and you can see I'm sailing around in my battleship's heal aura, so I'm constantly being healed by my battleship's aura as well. And finally, the F ability makes the enemy unable to use their main guns against you. While this is great, but I did notice that it does not affect secondaries. As you can see here, this Vin ship, aka Modified Bismarck, is wrecking me quite hard with the secondaries, even though the ability is up. So keep that in mind when you use it, that you can still get melted by enemy secondaries. But all together, all combined, this incredible non-stop brawly haymaker, carrier dropping from the left, you dropping from the right, Eclipse ability being used to break all the engines around you, battleship healing you, you nuking everyone. It's mayhem. It's like action everywhere, like this non-stop army of ships. Here we see a Chapaev using his ability. He's almost dead, but then he uses the healing ability and just watch his health skyrocket to full health. It's a brawl. It's non-stop action, and meanwhile we're trying to kill off the Gorgon that's trying to flee from us, but the combined DPM is melting him steadily, and it's just this insane amount of action, non-stop action throughout the entire mission, and it's great. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it. I think Wargaming has hit this one out of the park. It's quite hard actually. Completing it and getting it done is quite easy, but getting 5 stars, keeping 2 towers alive and killing all the bosses that are in the filth and so forth is actually quite challenging. But I think it's nice that it is challenging. I think it's nice that it is hard, because this is the kind of mission that I don't mind trying multiple times to get it perfectly, because they really knocked this one out of the park. So a big thumbs up from me to Wargaming for actually making this Halloween event pretty goddamn amazing. I really hope they don't nerf it, because I think a challenging event that you actually have to try multiple times for is a lot more interesting than one you just play once and just roll them over. Anyway, that was all for me, and I assume this event will be hitting the live service, I think, next week. I'm not entirely certain when. I think someone said the 18th. I won't vouch for that, but there's a high possibility that it might be hitting the live servers on the 18th of October. So I'll certainly be making a vid if and when we get a five-star run on this, and if and when it changes, if it does change for the live server. Let's hope it doesn't change too much, because I would love to see Wargaming be ballsy enough to go for a more challenging event for once, instead of the usual quite face roll easy ones. Anyway, that was all from me. I hope you enjoyed it, and have a good weekend.